Welcome to Empowered and Unstoppable, the show where high-achieving women crush self-doubt, ditch imposter syndrome, and step boldly into their greatness. I'm your host, Megan Bunnell, and together we'll unlock the mindset, strategies, and confidence you need to create unstoppable success on your terms. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Empowered and Unstoppable, the podcast where we talk about what it really takes to live a 10 out of 10 life. Not the perfectly polished kind, but the one that's full of passion and purpose and those messy, magical moments that make you, you. And I'm your host, Megan Bunnell. And my guest and I are laughing over here just a little tiny bit because we recorded like half of this episode and we were on mute. So we're in that spot, ladies. We're in that spot where it's hilarious. So I'm Megan Bunnell, your life coach, speaker, and recovering overachiever, if I'm being honest. And around here, we don't just talk about success. We talk about what happens behind the success, like leaving your microphone on mute. We talk about the burnouts, the breakthroughs, and the brave choices that help us rise again. Oh. Well, ladies, today, even though we're in a silly spot at the moment, should make it fun, but you are in for a treat because my guest today is someone who absolutely radiates light. She's one of those people that walks into a room and you instantly feel her warmth and her humor and that quiet strength that really comes from really living and loving life. So this is Beth, and Beth Spalding is the Advancement Officer at Children's Fund in San Bernardino, where she helps bring hope and opportunity to vulnerable kids across the community. But before that, she spent years at Verizon, rising through the corporate ranks and building an incredible career, all while navigating some of life's toughest transitions. She is a mom of two, a proud grandmother of two new ones.
Yes,
yeah. A paddleboarder, traveler, and a dog lover to her wonderful Harley, her cute little pup, and honestly, one of the most resilient and joyful and grounded women I've ever met. One of my very favorite souls on this planet. And Beth's story, why she's here, is because it really is one of strength and courage and reclaiming your sparkle, even when life throws you a curveball. And you know that life loves to throw us curveballs. So Beth, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Megan.
Again. Again. All right. So we always start every episode with the same question because it helps us pull back the curtains a little bit so that people can see who the person is behind the success and the amazingness. So what is something weird or quirky or just plain human about you that maybe your friends, coworkers, family might not know?
Oh, that's a great question. As Megan mentioned, I love to paddleboard, and all my family and friends know that. But what they don't know is I am somewhat of a bag lady. And what I mean by that is when I go to the store, I'm always the person who gets the free bags, buys the cute bags. And in the back of my SUV, I have a little wicker box full of these bags because you never know when you're going to need them. For example, I put my wet swimsuit and stuff gear from paddleboarding in there. I see families in the parking lot who these busy moms with lots of kids are taking their kids' clothes off. I take them a bag when I'm out with my grandkids down at the beach. They always come in handy, but it is a bit quirky. I have a plethora of bags in the back of my car. I'm your girl.
I love it. I love it. And what I told her last time that she mentioned that is I should probably take note of that and learn that lesson as a mom of four. I probably should have some bags. We got blankets and we got water bottles, right?
See, those are important too.
Yes, but having those bags, I think, would be great. Well, we're gonna start on your journey. We're gonna go back. Are you ready? So you spent years at Verizon really thriving in this big corporate environment. And I'm sure that's something that a lot of women that are listening can relate to, but it's challenging, right? Mm-hmm. And especially as a woman. So what is it like being a strong woman in a large, often male-dominated organization? And what did you learn from that season of your life about leadership, confidence, holding your own? What can you tell us?
Wow. That was definitely a pivotal part in my growth as a strong woman, and achieving goals that I didn't even know were important to me. I started at Verizon back when it was GTE. Yeah, I know, just a little timeline, and spent over 30 years there. I worked, and it was all women in roles at the time I hired on, such as administrative, clerical duties, and most of all of the leadership positions, except for one, was filled with men. And you have to put that in perspective because at the time, there was probably over 400 leadership positions in California alone. Um, so here I come into the dynamics, and once it became Verizon, things started changing, and women were encouraged to apply for leadership positions, which I did. And by the way, my ex-husband worked for Verizon as well. And so the one thing that I learned was to really focus on getting it right, not being right, with the men so that I could win their respect. Like it or not, that was an important scaffolding to the process. And I never will forget it when I first got promoted from being a supervisor to a call center manager. They sent us all to training. It wasn't done on Zoom. I know, so old school, right? But I walked into the room because you had to drive somewhere for days, and there were 30 people in there, and I was the only woman. And so I sat at a table with the guy who had the reputation of being the most hard-nosed um, leader, and just said, "Hi, how's it going?" And he said, "Hey, Spalding, are you ready for this?" And I said, "Okay, Wilson, bring it. Let's go."
I love it. I love it.
And it was an amazing day. At the end of the session, he started asking me questions. We had bonded. He would regularly reach out to me for my advice or to help his technicians. And really, that was the scaffolding of me working my way up through the corporate world. And I never forgot that. Whenever I got promoted again or won some remarkable award that required teamwork, I always gave accolades and shout outs to him and the people who had supported me so that they knew we weren't in competition. We were more working in concert together.
Yeah, I think that that's probably true, honestly, of relationships in general too, is making sure that you're building that respect or really allowing people to respect you, right? Because you
Mhm.
can't demand respect, but by making sure that people, I know you had mentioned before, feel heard and feel seen and get credit where credit is due. That's how you build respect in any relationship. And so,
100% feeling heard was a big mantra for me, whether it was, with my hourly staff, my leadership team, the men in different positions that I worked with and promoted some of them. I truly believe that when people feel heard, they start to feel respected, and that's when you really come together as a team and great things start to happen.
yeah, I love that. So here you are in Verizon, 10 years ago. We won't talk about that. And
Please.
at live trainings in person. And during that, your life took a pretty big turn. You got a divorce. Now, I know that a lot of you listeners, your ears probably just perked up. It's a very relatable, very sometimes full of fear situation. And sometimes it really feels like a big black mark or even the end. But Beth, you handled it with such grace and an amazing strength of your mindset at the time. But I know that it changed your path in a lot of different ways. So, can you take us back to that time? What was going through your mind? How did you find the strength to rebuild when life obviously was now not going the way that you expected it to?
Yeah, 100%. That took the air out of my sail, just briefly, because I knew, um, first of all, I grew up in a family where religion, faith, marriage was very important. So when mine fell apart, I felt like I had failed God, my parents, my kids, and most importantly, myself. Um, but I didn't have a lot of time to remain there. I knew that for my children to be okay, I had to be okay, and that they were going to be watching me as a mom and how we were going to get through this. And as a leader, I knew that it was now crunch time. I really had to perform, I had to survive, and I had to really earn a great living to take care of my children. On another note, my ex-husband and the woman that he was with both worked for the same company that I did. So I felt publicly flogged wherever I went. And back then I was really private. I did not share my personal life with people. And the first day that the rumor got out, and I walked into my call center, there was this quiet hush on the floor. Normally it was energized and people were just having fun and celebrating and working really hard. But when I walked in, I knew then that I had to be a strong leader for them as well, because I needed them to get through this. So I called all my staff into the office and just said, I know there's some rumors out there, and I'm here to talk about it, and I need your support. And the only way you can support me is if some of your questions are answered. So we had this session, and they asked me if it was true. I said, absolutely. I said, the worst thing that we can do is walk out there and pretend it didn't happen. So I am fine with you sharing with your teams that it's true, that I'm going to be okay, and that when we're here, I need their quiet love and support and lots of laughter to get me through this. And that together we're just going to be better because of it.
Yeah. And how brave to bring that personal business, into the work environment. But as a leader, you have to rely on your team all day, every day, right?
Mhm.
And they need to rely on you as a leader. And so to just be very vulnerable and say, look, I need your support so that I can keep doing what I'm doing. That's incredibly brave.
Thank you, Megan. I think I had a choice to be bitter or better, and I chose to be better.
So glad that she just said that line. That is
Mhm.
my favorite thing that she has said about that season of her life. I could be bitter or better, and I chose to be better.
And guess what happened? I don't know if I've ever shared this with you.
Ooh, I'm learning.
But that year, so in the sales environment, you always have these levels of things that you can win and amazing gifts and trips and accolades. That year, I threw myself into my career and my kids. And I won the trip to Cancun, Mexico. And there were, I think at the time, 275 sales center managers, and I was one of them. And I was super excited. I took my work wife with me, and I'm off to have a good time. And because I won, a lot of my staff got to go. But what I didn't know was my entire staff was there. And I started seeing them one by one thinking, wait, did I miss this memo?
Yeah.
And so we get to the award ceremony that first night, and they call up the national sales winner.
Tears.
And I won. We won. And when they called me up to the stage and started to give me the speech, I said, no. The rest of my staff needs to be up here. I would not have done this if it had not have been for them. So I had all 35 of them come up on this small stage and take a group picture, because the power was not just me. It was from them too.
And I think that's such a good sign of your leadership style and ability, is really recognizing that you are leading, you're not managing, right? And that you are leading, which means that if you're leading well, those people are doing well, and they deserve the credit too.
100%. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. You're listening to another episode of Empowered and Unstoppable.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. Are you ready to take your success to the next level? Visit www.meganbunnellcoaching.com.
Well, I know that that's really hard to share, and I'm sure that there are listeners out there that needed to hear that. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about the after part of that, if that's okay, because, and you and I have talked about this a little bit before, not on the recording. We now are past the point that we had already recorded. So this is all new, listeners, I promise.
Yay.
But we've talked about this before, just in the past, about how after that chapter, there was this lingering feeling, and you can put the right words to it, but where you had to kind of prove yourself that maybe you weren't enough. I know a lot of women might describe it as being broken. Like, so you can pick those words, but those are such common thoughts amongst women, honestly, in general, but definitely when there is a big, we'll say, disappointment or challenge or change, right? A hurdle in life. It's just a very universal feeling for us. And so how did you work through that? You know, describe it to us, but then emotionally, mentally, spiritually, to get back to you again, to that strong, self-assured, sparkle-filled woman that all of us absolutely love. Like, how did that happen?
Thank you, Megan. Well, you know how we all are big on motivational quotes and things. I remember one morning when my kids were out of college, they were off doing so well. I read this motivational quote that really changed me. And it said, "You hid your pain so others could thrive." And I remember reading that quote and thinking, I did that, but I still feel pain. How do I move past this pain and acknowledge that I do have baggage? Because all along this journey, I took great pride in the fact that I didn't have baggage. I would have laid in the middle of the road and told you all I did not have baggage. And deep down, I did. And that quote just really made me stop and take a breath and realize, okay, so now it's time for me to heal. And how are you going to go about that? And part of that journey was really being emotionally strong enough to share with people how I was feeling. I had belonged to a walking group with about 35 amazing women who come from all walks of life, different careers. And I would show up, but I never really went into depth about me or my pain because I felt like I had to keep my big girl boots on and hold up the world. And I started to realize it was time for the world to help hold Beth up and admit how I was feeling. And help me grow through this journey. And so I started sharing more in the walking group. I started taking classes and went back to church to figure out how I moved past this and what it was that I really, really needed to become that strong woman and help my daughter, who also swore she had no baggage over the divorce. And so
that's not true. We know that's not
it's
true.
not true.
No way.
And so I really had to be open to the feedback that people gave me, and especially my daughter, how she was feeling, and be vulnerable to get back to that. And I had to take great direction from those I sought out. I hired a life coach to help me through this. And I had to really dig deep. And the assignments that I got, I really had to throw myself into. They weren't just exercises, they were process. And some of the greatest things that I learned was to let go of pain. You have to acknowledge it, and especially acknowledge it to that person. And it doesn't have to be face to face. It can be in a letter, it can be in a journal, but to really spend some time letting go of that. Kind of like they're a log, you put them in the fireplace, you light it, you burn it, and you let go.
I love that. I love that. And I think that a lot of people can relate to having to hold it together, right? And maybe it's not for years. In your case, it was for your kids and throwing yourself into them and into work so that you could be strong and continue to make an amazing living so that you could support them, be strong for them. But for some of us, it's just day to day, right? For some of us, it's almost hiding behind what other people see, but we're not allowing ourselves to process those things that we need to. And what I love about you is that you recognize, like, I can't do this alone. And we're not meant to. And so maybe it is a coach, but maybe it's classes. Maybe it's that community, maybe it's not a walking group. Maybe it's a group at church. Maybe it's just your close friends, but being real with what you are experiencing and being willing to be aware, acknowledge, and being willing to just accept and let it go so that you can sparkle again and you can be you again, right? It's just a chapter moving on to the next one.
It is just a chapter moving on to the next one, but you can't keep skimming.
Yeah.
You have to address.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're so strong and so brave. And I'm thank you for sharing that story. I know that that's incredibly hard to go back, but I think so many women need to know it's not the end.
It's not the end. And if you can move past thinking you have to hold it all on your own, you start empowering others. And that's why I'm here today. If I can make somebody or encourage somebody to take the steps to find your sparkle again, invest in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely worth it. And I think so often we look at our past like a black mark or like it, and we've all made mistakes, right? We're all human.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are mistakes of others that you're taking on as your own. And sometimes they're your own mistakes, but you can't keep living in them.
And when you forgive others, you really start to forgive yourself as well.
Yeah, I love that. So on that note of kind of reinventing yourself, you've actually done that professionally as well. So you went from this very powerhouse woman in the corporate life to now where you stand in the nonprofit forum. And you've come from a mom, which we all know, if you're moms, that's a lot, to a grandmother, which is a whole different lot.
Yes.
Really, at some points from surviving to definitely thriving. And change, I think, can be for anybody incredibly difficult, but it can also be an amazing start to your next chapter, as we mentioned. And so often we avoid change. There's unknown, and that's scary. We're fearful of what that might be, right? What might be coming. But sometimes change is exactly what we need. And so you've been there more than one time. What helped you to discover your next purpose? So whether it was professionally or things in your personal life, but how did you know it was time to step into that next season and now into your life with Children's Fund, which we'll talk about in a little bit? What allowed you to really discover that next purpose?
Change is an interesting thing. I always grew up as a child not liking change, and it was really strange as an adult. When I went into the working environment, I started to like change and not be afraid of it, and embrace it, even if it was uncomfortable. So for me, as I was working one day at Verizon, I had some family things happen with my mom, some health issues with me. And we were in the process of another consolidation with, any big conglomerate. As we went through telecommuting, the internet, all of these tools that changed the way huge corporations did business, we were always going through downsizing or moving from one to the next. And because I did embrace change, I always ended up being okay. And several times I ended up getting promoted again. But with that came an immense amount of responsibility. And at the same time that both my daughter had graduated from college and my son only had 2 years, we were going through another consolidation. And they were offering me positions in Texas and different places. And I took a step back. and ask myself, here's all the things you've accomplished, not in a pompous way, but you never set out to accomplish all these things. You set out to be a leader that people could respect, and you wanted to create high performing teams. And when I started writing this list of everything I did through my teams, and the growth that it provided, and the things that I wanted to see change in my life and that were important to me now were not in alignment. And it was scary because I was a sole income. I still had a son in college. I still had to work for another 12 or 13 years. And so I just kept looking at that list of things that I wanted and realizing they weren't going to come true. And again, I had to be courageous.
Mm-hmm.
And I called my financial planner and said, I have this much vacation. This is what I want. And he said, take it off and go back to work. And I went into culture shock. For any of you who have had a career where you work 12, 14 hours a day, you're available, you work on the weekends to get caught up and work on special projects, to go from that end of the pendulum to looking at your cell phone at 4 a.m. and nobody's asking for you was quite a shocking experience. And because it was rather quick, Megan, I wasn't prepared for that. So I had an identity crisis, whereas I thought I was going to feel this freedom. And it was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And so that took about 6 months for me to just really realize this is a change you wanted. You have to put your faith that whatever is going to happen is going to come, and you've got to start putting yourself out there. So 1 year to date from when I left Verizon, exactly, this is the bizarre thing, 1 year to date, Children's Fund reached out to me and said, through that networking walking group, one of the women was on the board for Children's Fund and said, they have a brand new position they're creating. It has your name all over. Can I give them your name? I said, yes. By the end of the day, I had an interview, and to this day, I'm not sure who found who, if Children's Fund found me or I found them, but it was exactly the change that I needed to spend the rest of my career. And I never will forget it. In the interview, it was a paneled interview, and you have to remember I interviewed thousands of people. So I was on to them and their game, and they said, how do you value a good workplace culture? And I said, for me, it's when I skip over the threshold every day that I walk in, excited about who I work with and what I get to do. And they hired me, and I was only going to stay for a year or two because I'd never worked in the nonprofit. And guess what? In April, it'll be 10 years that I have been there, and I still love what I do, who I do it with, and who I get to do it for.
I love it. I love it. And something that you said in there, I think is so important. You were out of alignment with what you were doing, even if you loved it every day, and what you wanted in life. And I think that's when we know that some sort of change needs to happen. Because as soon as you're in alignment with how you're spending your time, which is your most valuable resource, right? Everything changes. Everything changes.
It does change, and you can be frightened by it, or you can embrace it and say, I got this. And as scary as that is, I hope that all of you listening out there make that same list. Like, here's what I've accomplished. What do I still want to accomplish? And is it giving me joy?
I love it. I love it. I heard a quote one time, and I don't know who it's by. I might have to put it in the show notes, but it's, if you make a friend of change, you'll have a friend for life.
Wow, I love that.
And it's so true, because nothing stays the same, right? Absolutely nothing stays the same. Well, thank you for sharing that, and hopefully giving encouragement to those out there that you can kind of take inventory, if you will, and see if you're in alignment, or see if there's something that needs to change to help you get there.
Yeah.
Well, for anybody that's in that in-between space, where life has shifted or maybe broken open, right? And you're wondering how to rise again. What would you have a lot of experience in that for different reasons, but what would you say to them? What's one thing you think they can do today to take back their power, their confidence, or even just start believing in themselves again?
That's a great question. I think I'm a post-it girl. I love notes. And I use my phone more now. Make a memo on your phone right now, pull it out, and the top 3 things that you're proud of at the core of who you are, either in your role, in your leadership, or something that you have accomplished in spite of something. And really take the time to celebrate that and think back to the things that it took to get you there, because those things don't change. They just go stronger as we get more seasoned and experienced in our role. And take those things and for about a week, keep celebrating those. And then make another note underneath it of the 3 things that you want to accomplish in the next year. And then design that plan for you based off of what made you special above.
I love that. And I love that you say that those accomplishments need to be about who they are, because no matter what award you won or position you got, the important piece is the person that did the things to get you there. And so really, if you're celebrating who you are that allowed you to accomplish those things, that same person is going to be the same person tackling those 3 goals that you have for this year.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of talk about being a confident, strong woman. And there used to be a lot of negativity behind that. But I believe that you can be a confident woman when you are humbly so, and you acknowledge the things that you're grateful that helped you get that confidence.
I love that. I love that. And that will go with you no matter what you're doing, no matter who you're with, no matter what relationship in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to give them the final question. I always ask everybody this. If you could magically make a sticky note appear on every woman's mirror in the morning so that they could read this every morning, what is one thing that you would like every woman to read on that sticky note?
Do I have to pick one? Can I give them 2?
I'll let you break the rules. Yes, you can give them 2 notes on the sticky notes.
Okay. Number 1, it should say, you are amazing. And whatever playlist you have, whatever songs get you going, you should just take 30 seconds to celebrate that you're amazing, because that sets your day off for amazing things. And it gives you the energy and the mindset. I'm big on what you think actually happens. So if you celebrate how amazing you are, you're going to walk out the door and be amazing all day long, in spite of whatever obstacles or speed bumps hit you.
I love that.
And the second thing that I think it should say is, you are worth it. Because when you value your own worth, other people feel that. It's like a magnet. It's like gravity. Acknowledging that you are worth it in spite of anything that has come your way moves mountains. And that was the hardest thing for me to accept, is I was worth it. And once I acknowledged in a humble way that I was worth it, amazing things have been happening for me. In my role at Children's Fund, I was operations manager for 7 years. We got a new CEO who came over and said to me, your eyes sparkle when you talk and tell stories about Children's Fund. I'd like you to come over and support fundraising, which I love. I'm a people person. The moment I said I am worth it, my own life being a single woman has changed drastically. I'm no longer spending the weekends just staying at home. I say I'm worth it. I'm going out and making 5 new friends today. Life is really a wonderful journey. And when you accept you're worth it, that journey really begins.
I love it. I love it. So I actually have on my mirror, you can, just Amazon is so wonderful. I have a black vinyl, I guess, sticker that's on there that says you're amazing on my mirror. So I love that. I got that one, but I do love that you are worth it. So ladies, you need 2 sticky notes for this one, 2 sticky notes. But I couldn't agree with her more. If you can start your day really believing that you are amazing because you are, and that you are worth it because you are. It's true. That's how you carry yourself. That's how people see you. That's how they'll start to treat you. I love that. Those are good ones. Those are good ones. Okay. Well, Beth, before I let you go, I have such a heart for the work that you're doing now. And so, can you tell us a little bit about Children's Fund, who you serve, how you support them, and more importantly, how can the listeners support them as well?
Oh, thank you, Megan. Children's Fund, I like to say, is one of the best kept secrets in the Inland Empire. And I still jump over the threshold every day I walk into the office. Children's Fund was founded by the late Jack Brown of Stater Brothers and 2 Superior Court judges who saw a gap in what the kids in foster care were receiving through normal county means. And so we were created to fill those gaps in emergency needs. I'd like to share with people who don't know about Children's Fund that each year, we give out over 52,000 services to families in our county, in the high desert, low desert, all across San Bernardino County, which you know is the biggest county in the U.S.
Yeah.
But more importantly, at Children's Fund, we really truly travel the journey from crisis to resilience. And celebrate that along the way with these kids. These kids are amazing individuals who have the fortitude and perseverance to overcome some really, really traumatic things that have happened to them. There's only 11 of us, maybe 12 soon at Children's Fund. And so I say very proudly that we are a small but mighty team. And if you think about that, 11 people giving out 52,000 services is quite phenomenal. And how do we do that? We have amazing donors, both individual and corporate sponsors. We have drives. And we have different types of events and fairs where you can support us. Some of the things we do at Children's Fund is emergency needs, supplying bedding, housing, sheets, helping people with rental assistance, moms and dads who have been removed from their normal home environment because of really traumatic and abusive relationships. So our first goal is to get people settled and in a safe environment. Last year, we gave out over 200 scholarships to aging out foster youth who go on to break the trajectory and often are the first ones to get a college education, changing their life forever. We also there's a courtroom playhouse at the San Bernardino County Juvenile Courthouse that most people don't know about, where these young kids go and sit in the room before they have to go testify against their predators, which is sometimes their mom and dad, to remove them from being in the hall. And Children's Fund provides all of the toys, snacks, bead kits, things to help calm their anxiety and forget where they are at. And we like to tell the kids it's a secret little room that only they can go in. And it's really life-changing for them. So you can find ways to support us. And I'll tell you our website in a moment. But we do every year a backpack drive. We do a hygiene drive. We do our toy drive, which is coming up soon. This is our 37th annual toy drive. Last year, we gave out through donations from major organizations, small organizations, people having toy drives. We were lucky and fortunate to have 35,000 toys donated. And this year, our goal is 40,000 toys, not because we're overachievers, but because, unfortunately, the need has grown year over year. And I think it's important to share that this toy drive is not just about giving a kid a toy. It's about the hope. It's about the joy we bring into kids' lives who are experiencing the worst. And it's about really helping them feel like they matter. We talked about that earlier, but kids in foster care need to feel like they matter. And this normalizes their life for them. So if you want to support our toy drive, which we would so love on behalf of everyone at Children's Fund, you can find more information about us as an organization at www.childrensfund.org. And if you want to support Celebration of Giving, COG, just put a /COG, and it will take you to how you can donate, how you can host a toy drive, how you can just reach out to me, and I will get back to you and we can talk about Children's Fund and ways that you can support. But if you're looking for a nonprofit that really has amazing impact, and you want to support either through the toy drive or through employee giving and corporations, again, I encourage you to go to www.childrensfund.org. And I want to thank you, Megan, for allowing me to share that.
Yeah, of course. And that will be in the show notes. And that's for major corporations all the way down to just an individual. So no matter where you are more than welcome to give. And whether it's one toy or an entire toy drive or one backpack or a backpack drive, they are an amazing organization to donate to. So if you need that information, you would like to get involved, then check out the show notes. Get in touch with Beth. You can figure out where your place is to make a difference in not only our children of today, but their futures of tomorrow, because these kids will do amazing things.
Oh, and if you want to volunteer or you're looking for a great holiday team build to volunteer, those slots come available on the website November 1st, and you'll get to meet me with my little elf ears and a great Christmas playlist, and you help us sort toys out at the San Bernardino County warehouse. So I forgot that piece too.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go just so that I can see your elf ears.
Okay. I guarantee you, I'll give you a money back guarantee. It's fun.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Beth. So again, my friends, all of that info is in the show notes. So please make sure that you visit Children's Fund and see how you can make a difference. Beth, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me on here. When you asked me, it was quite an honor, and it humbled me. And I thought I'd be nervous. I've never done this before, but I feel like I'm talking to an audience that, even though I've never met them, we all share commonalities.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You're amazing. And this was a great experience. So thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I just appreciate you being really open and vulnerable and sharing your story, because I feel like that's what the women that are listening need to hear. They're going to relate to some piece of that. And hopefully, my friends, you can take, one piece, whether it's advice or just motivation, inspiration, or just knowing that somebody's been through it and has come out stronger on the other side. And hopefully that will fuel you in whatever it is that you are experiencing currently.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think that Beth is such a perfect example of somebody that really is empowered and unstoppable, and not because everything's perfect, because no matter what it looks like on the outside, it never really is. But she keeps showing up as herself through all of it. And, we talked about alignment, and we talked about being brave, and we talked about that confidence. But you also talked about how important it is to include other people and to share recognition and to hear them. And I think all of that is so very important and makes you sparkle the way that you do. So to everyone listening, if you've ever walked through a hard chapter and thought, I don't know if I can do it, I don't know if I can rebuild, then take a page from Beth's story. You can rise and you can sparkle again. And the next version of your life can be even brighter than the one before. So if today's conversation spoke to you, share it with a friend who needs that reminder, and make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss an episode of Empowered and Unstoppable with these amazing women that I have as my guests. So until next time, take a look at your story. Are you surviving it? Just surviving it? And if so, perhaps it's time to rewrite it and make it sparkle again. Remember that your sparkle isn't something that you find, it's something that you get to turn back on. So until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Empowered and Unstoppable. If today's episode spoke to you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who needs a boost of empowerment. Are you ready to take your success to the next level? Visit www.meganbunnellcoaching.com. Remember, you're not just capable, you're unstoppable. See you next time.